Staying in London, moving on to Arsenal. First thing I actually want to speak about is because a few people in the comment section have spoke about it. Peter put a super chat in saying, "I'm hearing Zubimendi to Arsenal is off. Is that true?" I think a lot of this, Ben, is based on those comments from Zubimendi. I saw a lot of Arsenal fans having meltdowns on social media yesterday. What's your understanding of that situation? Could it collapse, or is it very likely to still complete?
Well, it's not been formalised, but there's an agreement in principle between Zubimendi and Arsenal. He's got permission to do the medical. Permission to do the medical doesn't mean that you've done the medical, but Arsenal have felt this one is done internally for quite some time. What's happening, a bit like with the Dean Howson story, is Real Madrid are late to the party. With Howson, they were not so late that they couldn't influence it. And you may remember with that, I was telling you, the feeling was that if Real don't enter the race, he's going to the Premier League, and the Premier League are moving fast, or the clubs that were interested in Howson, because they're scared that if Real enter the race for Howson, then there's a real danger that this guy just wants to go to Real Madrid, and that's what happened. Arsenal, to avoid that, haven't just moved fast. They've been lining this deal up since January, but Zubimendi's obviously made comments that suggest he's in love with Xabi Alonso. So now we just have to wait for the formalization. From the Arsenal side, I'm not led to believe any panic. They think it's done. They think it's going to happen. They think he'll be the first signing under Andrea Berta. So Arsenal are calm about the situation, but all we do is report deals based on fees, agreements, permissions for medicals, and then you have to actually get out a pen and sign the contract. And that hasn't happened yet with Zubimendi. So naturally, the comments will lead Real Madrid fans to get a little bit excited that there could be a twist. But I still think that Arsenal feel that that deal is basically done. So it may be that Real are too late to the parade. But remember what we discussed on the last show, and I've said hundreds of other times, Zubimendi is the one name that everyone has to be cautious with, because Zubimendi is the one name that has said yes to clubs before and then woken up and changed his mind. He said yes to Liverpool, agreement in principle, decided he wanted to stay at Sociedad. It's happened with more than one suitor. So this is why Arsenal are keeping very silent, being very discreet. They've done everything they can. They've got a yes from the player. They've got terms agreed from the players. They've got paperwork ready. They have permission to undergo the medical. But now the formalization has to happen. And this is why Arsenal are just going about their business, because they do think it's done, and hoping that there isn't going to be a surprise twist from Real Madrid.
Thank you for that, Ben. In terms of, we'll speak about another Ben now, Benjamin Sesko. There's so much debate in the Arsenal fan base. We have many a gooner that come on our shows. Sesko, is it going to be Sesko? Is it going to be Gyokeres? They seem to be getting more and more frustrated by the day that there doesn't seem to be any movement. What's the latest as you understand it? We know concrete talks have happened in relation to Sesko. A lot of solid reports on the continent that right up to terms agreed, some outlets in Portugal have reported on. In fact, I think the Portuguese record yesterday said that his next destination will be England. But what's the latest in terms of Arsenal's pursuit of a goal scorer? I think for many Arsenal fans, they see it as the most important position to fill this summer window.
Yeah, and it is. So Benjamin Sesko is the one that is long-standing under kind of Edu, Jason Ato, Victor Gyokeres. They've looked at for some time too, but it's a target kind of elevated under Andrea Berta. And the reason for the delay is simple, that there's a healthy debate going on at Arsenal. So I understand Arsenal fans want answers, but you don't get to the right answer unless you have this healthy debate. I think the biggest misconception in every transfer market is clubs should just make a decision, be on the same page, everyone should be happy, and they bid. But 99 times out of 100, up until the player signs, there's healthy, constructive arguments and freedom to challenge. Otherwise, you don't get to the right decisions. And that's what makes Liverpool's model so effective. They don't all agree. In fact, they hardly ever agree. But eventually, you decide on the best approach. And that's taken a bit of time within Arsenal. And there's a domino effect here where Chelsea, Liverpool, for both Gyokeres and Sesko, and no doubt other clubs as well across Europe. So you can't go all in on one target, because if that target chooses another club, then you're not best placed to get an equally effective target. And I know that frustrates fans because they want an answer, but it's kind of a self-fueling cycle of frustration, because unless you take the time to understand why these things happen and why there's more than one target being lined up and why there's concurrent approaches, you fail to understand how the window works. And then you bang your head against a brick wall going, how have we not ranked them? How have we not decided? But you never quite rank 1, 2, 3, 4. You actually find a depth of targets, all of which you know can do a job. And then when you finally bid on one, if you don't get them, when you drop down, you're really pleased because there's equal depth. I sort of refer to it as, if you are looking what you want to wear for a function, then you pull out 4 outfits and you'll put on one outfit first, but it doesn't mean you're not happy wearing the other 3 fits. And maybe you do a fit check on the second one or the third one, and you're like, I look better in that. So then you pivot. And it's kind of the same with transfer targets. It's not 1 Sesko, 2 Gyokeres. Damn it, we've missed out on Sesko. Now we've got our backup. It's here's the depth of options. Have a healthy and constructive debate. Line up both, because maybe you get a hitch in the negotiations, and then work out what you can pull the trigger on. Now, away from that, and understand that people listening will just go, we're bored of that analogy. We're bored of that metaphor. We're bored of the context. So fine. Listen to other people that tell you it is definitely one or the other, but I can guarantee you they'll be taking a 50-50 guess at this stage. Maybe they'll be right, maybe they'll be wrong. But the context behind why clubs hedge their bets is as I've explained. Now, Sesko, they've made contact with Leipzig in the last 3 days. They have discussed whether or not there is flexibility beneath the variable release clause set at the moment at around 80 million euros. And that's why that one's taking time, because Arsenal want to do Sesko for 70 million euros or within that ballpark. And I think if Leipzig show flexibility, there is a concrete possibility that that one advances in the next few days. Then the earlier contact with Leipzig in January is very key to this, because they were respectful of the player wanting to see out the season and of Leipzig not wanting to sell mid-season. And that strengthens Arsenal's position in Sesko negotiations, because now Leipzig have a good relationship with Arsenal. If they were too bullish and disruptive in January, maybe they wouldn't be able to potentially get a deal below the release clause. With Victor Gyokeres, the sale will be sanctioned wherever he goes for around 70 million euros, 30 million below the release clause. And the delay there is not on Arsenal, it's on the player. Gyokeres is basically asking Sporting to gather his options, because they have a verbal pact he can leave for that number this summer. He wants to take a week or 2 to decide, of which we're already into. He wants to understand what all his options are and then make a clear decision. So that's on the player saying, I don't want one club to be driving this timeline and forcing me to decide. I want to be able to be the one that says, these are all the offers. They all come in by a certain point, by the middle or latter part of this month. And then Gyokeres will decide who he wants to engage with. And some of that was waiting to see if Man United get Champions League football or can make the deal work. Some of it was waiting to speak to Berta, a newer figure within Arsenal. Some of it is waiting to see whether Chelsea add another striker. And that's why that's taking a little bit of time as well. So in fairness to Arsenal, the delay is not on them kicking their heels. The delay is them respecting the timelines and the complexities of negotiation that the club and players in question want. And guess what? That's how you eventually get the deal done. If Liverpool get Florian Wirtz done, it's not because they're banging on Leverkusen's door every day going, what if we offer you 5 million more? What if we chuck in a player? They get the Wirtz deal done because Barry Hunter, the chief scout, has spent months behind the scenes building a relationship, because Liverpool have forged a relationship with the family, because Fernando Caro and Liverpool's hierarchy get on, because they've done deals before in the past, because they get in a room face to face together. They understand when the right time is to make an approach and when the wrong one is. Whereas I think fans, when they want answers from us as journalists, just go, well, you gave the same update as you did yesterday. Well, maybe that's because your club is sensible and they're waiting for the right timing in the market to make their move. And that's kind of where Arsenal are at with Sesko and Gyokeres. I think Sesko, there is more work and advancement at the moment, and there are ongoing meetings, so we might see a bid soon. But again, you don't get either of those names unless you respect the process of negotiation, and that's what Arsenal are doing, and all credit to them.
It's so interesting with Arsenal. I know their fans are jaded, and there's quite a dichotomy and a contrast between within the groups of Arsenal fans. But I also find it frustrating listening sometimes that they don't want to. Some Arsenal fans that are moaning online don't want to listen to the rationale. Maybe you could. The irony in it is this: a lot of the ones moaning want Gyokeres, but as you're pointing out, Gyokeres is asking for some time to think and deliberate and consider. At the same time, they don't want the club to sign Sesko, but he could potentially be the one. They pay the money, they get it done, because as you said before, he agreed a year ago that Arsenal would be the right place for him in the future. So they could do that, but then you might end up with the player that you don't want. And I think we have this a lot. United fans last night, we have the same issue in our fan base. I had a guy say to me live, Terry, don't get excited about these signings. I said, well, no, I'll get excited about a deal individually, but you're right. My feet are on the floor in terms of the progression of the club. We need to do a lot more. And all I said back is, well, in the same time, could you not panic at this point at every little bit of bad news? And that's what I noticed. The people that tell you, and I'm sure Chelsea fans, I'm sure City fans, I'm sure Liverpool fans, Spurs fans, they're the teams we primarily cover. I bet they all recognize that behavior within their fan base. You'll get a certain group that will say, don't panic about anything. It's all going to be okay. And they're overly positive. And you'll get the other group that tell everybody, don't get excited about anything, but yet they panic at the drop of a hat. And I just personally, as someone who's engaging with it, it's like, I get your frustration, but listen to what the inside information is. Listen to the reasons why. And what you said at the beginning, I think is so key. Liverpool's transfer team are praised a lot, especially the group, they're Edwards and co. But they fight and they argue and they disagree wildly with their targets, and then they come to a conclusion. Suddenly you have a situation at Arsenal where the sporting director and manager are in disagreements over something. And instead of Arsenal fans seeking information to go, well, actually, a lot of the successful clubs have that exact dynamic within the transfer team, and go, well, that's good for us then if we've now got that dynamic, as opposed to maybe Arteta always getting what he wants or Edu not doing a good enough job in their eyes. I don't see why they don't recognize that as, oh, there's a difference here. Man United, new people now running our transfers, getting 2 deals, one done and one this close, this early in the summer. That should be a flag to go, there's a difference there. You'll know, you've covered it with me for years on this show. We're often getting into August and we're like, we don't even know United are getting yet. And so I don't know. Sometimes I just look at fans and think, are you moaning for the sake of moaning? Or are you not engaging your brain? I don't know. Maybe that's me as a fan talking. It's just sometimes frustrating. I get they want these deals done, but you can't get all deals done quickly. Even Bomo turned around and said to Man United, I need 3 or 4 weeks. I really need to think about who and where I want to go. If you've got to wait. What can you do? Rush off and sign someone not as good on a whim? Come on now. You've got to be so careful.
I mean, to be honest, we're to blame. So this is why we get a lot of flack, because we're working to push out the targets and find out what your club is doing. And the earlier we do that, the more waiting time you've got. So if people didn't realize that Liverpool were in for Florian Wirtz, then there wouldn't be this clamor of, why wasn't it done last week? Have they accepted the second 130 million euros bid and so on? It would be a case of, oh, we've learnt about our target later and now it's likely to happen. Cunha was a good example. When I broke the interest, knowing there was a clause, I already knew that talks were ongoing, and I knew it would only take a couple of weeks to agree a 5-year deal. So it didn't feel like there was much of a wait there, other than, of course, he still needs to get his visa. But with other targets like Delap, it's been obvious, and we take pride in it because it means we're doing our job, breaking something early that becomes a topic of conversation and debate. But with Delap, you put that out there so early, there's a 30 million euro pounds relegation release clause, that as soon as that's out there, it's like, right, Man U fans, Chelsea fans, Newcastle fans, Everton fans, Leipzig fans, Leverkusen fans, Milan even made a late inquiry as well. They all want to know day by day by day. And then it's like, Delap's not going to decide before the season ends. The clause isn't valid to trigger until Ipswich are officially down. He's going to go and meet all the clubs individually after the season. He's going to wait until the Europa League final to see whether Man United have got Champions League football. Then he's going to decide. So then as soon as it's out there, everyone wants an update. But of course, we can't really give you an update until the players had the opportunity to go through that process, which is why there's a big excitement. Next day, what's happening with Mbrumo? Well, he hasn't agreed personal terms yet. There's been no bid. So we have to just slow it down again, even though it feels like, of course, it could happen and it's moving fast. Whereas if you think back to Cody Gakpo and Liverpool, there was some suggestions put out there. Man United wanted Gakpo, and Liverpool just announced that out of the blue at about a week's notice. And that's why actually deep down, the clubs and some players, they like to avoid this kind of media debate of the blow by blow by blow. But it's our job to try and find you the blow by blow by blow. And there won't always be an update, but that's not on us. That's just on sometimes how the process works.
Of course. And I don't necessarily blame the media. There's a few things. One, fans want minute by minute updates. So therefore, you said the same thing last week, Ben. Well, you've asked for an update. People DM me all week and you get Ben on and ask these questions, blah, 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 blah. Also, we have to understand, this is where fans have to engage their brain. I'm not accusing any journalists of lying. I don't always think what they're saying is true, though. But it doesn't mean they've lied. There could be a story around Gyokeres. How many intermediaries, agents, club officials across both teams and other people trying to get involved in the deal in terms of, I'd rather Arsenal buy my client. So other agents trying to, how many of them are giving out bits and pieces of information? That's why I think people have to what I tend to do is I go with the stories that are out there. I go, right, this report has come from Portugal, or this has come from Brazil, or this has come from Mr. Jacobs. This is what they're saying. This is what this publication said. This is what I think. What do you think? And it's about, just for me, that's the fun part of transfers. One thing I would say to football fans is I enjoy that. I don't understand why it causes frustration. It's the way they sort of treat every media outlet, every journalist. I'm talking about the people that get angry, like they're all the same person. So the other day I did a story. I said, Terry, this can't be true. The other day the media said this. Well, no, that was a different newspaper in a different country. Said something different. You can't. It's like going, oh, hang on a minute. Roy Keane just praised Caicedo. He can't do that because Scholes says he weren't very good. That would make no sense for you to say Roy Keane can't praise a footballer because Paul Scholes criticized that footballer. They're different. Yeah, I just think we've got. I listen. I love it. I love it personally. I love the updates that we get.